Not everyone in the West thinks Vladimir Putin is a dangerous megalomaniac. No less than former US President Donald Trump has called the man responsible for so much death and destruction in Ukraine a genius. Now, of course, Trump has made a career out of being unorthodox. And the more unpredictable he is, it seems, the more his supporters love him. So much so, Trump is now seriously considering another tilt at the White House. And if you thought it was a wild ride last time he was leader of the free world, you ain't seen nothing yet. If there's one thing Donald Trump has taught the world about US politics, it's that definitions of fact and fiction are not black and white.
The big lie is a lot of bullshit. That's what it is.
In the aftermath of the 2020 presidential election, he's blurred the lines between defeat and victory so successfully, polls now say he's convinced more Americans than ever that grinners are the real winners.
We will not bend, we will not break, we will not yield, we will never give in, we will never give up.
And if anyone dares disagree with Trump's rewriting of history, they're forever damned by his army of blindingly loyal followers.
He's a great president, and he's going to do great things.
To be a Trump supporter, as you are, do you have to believe in the big lie that the election was stolen? Is that a prerequisite?
It's almost comical the way the media is portraying what happened in our election. You're, thousands of miles away. You really have no idea what happened in our election. Woo!
These days, Kari Lake is the former Commander-in-Chief's supporter-in-chief. And, as you'll see...
well, no, I've already told you we're done. Thank you so much.
Along with eulogising Trump, she likes nothing more than giving annoying reporters free character assessments.
I don't live in Australia. Are you actually a respectable journalist there, or are you kind of considered a joke?
More of Kari Lake later. But first, a different take on why Donald Trump is plotting to once again stride the corridors of power.
This is a man with a following of millions. We are witnessing, quite literally, the biggest cult phenomenon I think we've ever witnessed in Western history, is the phenomenon of people following an autocratic leader like Donald Trump.
It probably doesn't sound like it, but Miles Taylor is a lifelong Republican. He was a national security advisor under President George W. Bush, and also worked for the Trump administration at the Department of Homeland Security. But far from praising his former boss, he fears him. What do you think is at stake for America if Trump runs for presidency in 2024?
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the prospect of a second Donald Trump term is a threat to our lives, our livelihoods, and our way of life. I think if Trump runs again, it will so rip this country apart, it will be a public safety threat.
Donald Trump has hinted, but hasn't yet confirmed, a tilt at the White House in 2024. Miles Taylor knows firsthand, though, that if he does, and is successful, the free world will see a very different style of leader.
When I worked in that administration, there was no one that Donald Trump saw more like him around the world than autocrats. He would have rather been friends with Kim Jong-un in North Korea, President Xi in China, and Vladimir Putin in Russia than any Western democratic leader.
You've been in the Situation Room while he's been talking about these autocrats, the likes of Xi and Putin and Kim Jong-un. Why is he drawn to these people? What does he say?
He's drawn to these people because he wants to be like them. Donald Trump was immensely disappointed by something when he became president of the United States. It was that he didn't have the power that he thought he did. It was that he couldn't just will things into existence. So frankly, at its core, it was jealousy. He was jealous of Vladimir Putin and Xi in China because he wanted to be able to do what they could do, which was whatever they wanted.
And I said, this is genius. Putin declares
a big portion of Ukraine. Putin declares it as independent. Oh, that's wonderful.
For the critics, there could be no better proof of the dangers of Donald Trump than 3 weeks ago, when he went on American radio to talk about Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. His views couldn't have been clearer or more controversial.
I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. That's the strongest peace force. We could use that on our southern border. Here's a guy who's very savvy. I know him very well, very, very well.
He's extraordinarily dangerous. He's a demagogue.
Canadian professor Thomas Homer Dixon is a political scientist and conflict specialist. He says Trump's refusal to accept Joe Biden won the last election has now forever damaged American politics. Do you think it's fair to call Donald Trump an extremist?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a man who seems to have no respect for or even comprehension of democracy. I mean, he lost the election. And immediately after the election, he started to mobilize his forces to try to steal it, to try to block the legitimate political result.
Professor Dixon doesn't hold back. He says since Trump lost the election, he's turned against democracy and has done everything in his power to convince his millions of supporters their electoral system is rigged.
The American people deserve answers. The January 6th rally was a protest against a crooked election carried out by unhinged Democrats, big tech, and working with the fake news media, all working together to defeat Republicans and your favorite president, me.
From the moment he lost, Donald Trump said he didn't.
Last year we had a rigged election and the proof is all over the place.
And even when US judges threw out more than 50 lawsuits challenging the election result because there wasn't any evidence, Trump still maintained he was the winner.
And we won twice, and we did better the second time.
With so many supporters now in tow, the fear is if Trump runs again for the Oval Office, what happens if he doesn't get the outcome he wants?
Somewhere around 70% of the Republican members of the Republican Party believe that the election was stolen. That really corrodes the underlying institutions of democracy in the country. It means that for those Republicans that it's very likely that they will refuse to accept the result of any election in the future where their candidate doesn't win. And you can't run a democracy when people are taking that kind of position.
If I run and if I win, we will treat those people from January 6th fairly. We will treat them fairly. And if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons.
What did you think of that statement?
Well, I heard other Republicans saying that too. They picked up on his cue, I'm sure. That's very disturbing.
Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson was former Secretary of State Colin Powell's Chief of Staff. He's outraged the perpetrators of last year's January 6 insurrection could ever be forgiven. So what's the message that he's sending?
He's saying, if there's anything you do following me that is a violation of the law, quote unquote, I'll take care of that, either through a presidential pardon or I won't allow the case to be prosecuted against you.
Wins.
And we will make America great again. Thank you.
His planning also includes a concerted effort to put his supporters in key electoral positions at a state level now, so they're in place early for the 2024 election.
Yeah, there's a massive mobilization across the country by Republican operatives in all of the swing states that Trump needs to win, and decisively, where Democrats might win, but they want to be able to overturn the election results if that should happen. There's a deliberate effort by the Republican Party to capture the electoral machinery.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Trump-endorsed candidate Kari Lake.
But of all the weapons in Trump's re-election arsenal, the most formidable could well be this take-no-prisoners politician. Her name is Kari Lake. And as you're about to see, you cross her at your own peril.
You're trying to twist this interview
Not at
and
all.
trying to make me look bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Trump-endorsed candidate for governor of the great state of Arizona, Kari Lake.
One-time Fox News host, Kari Lake, wants to be the next governor of Arizona.
I'm ready to take a sledgehammer.
These TV smashing ads have given her campaign a boost, but not nearly as much as being endorsed as the Republican nominee by Donald Trump.
Do you guys love him as much as I love him?
It's not difficult to see why he likes her.
I think he's a great president. I think he's one of the best presidents we've ever had, and I think he will be back. I think he will win in 2024, and he will come back with a vengeance.
The outgoing Republican governor in Arizona is Doug Ducey. He's out of favour because he defied Trump's bullying at the last election. Instead of cheating, he played by the rules and declared the result in his state that went Joe Biden's way was a fair one. But Kari Lake reckons that's a nonsense.
Well, considering how much already at the time information we had about serious irregularities and problems with the election, I would not have certified it right then. Wasn't it great to hear from President Trump?
If you hadn't worked it out already, Kari Lake couldn't be more in tune with Donald Trump.
Do not believe a word that the corrupt media says, that they're liars, and frankly, I think they're criminal. Yeah, they should be. I mean, some of them probably should be locked up.
It's a toss-up who she loathes more, journalists or the officials she says stole the election from Trump by declaring Biden the winner.
Anybody who was involved in that corrupt, shady, shoddy election of 2020. Lock them up.
The point is, on a broad scope, on a very broad scale, right across the United States, you've had election officials, you've had court officials, you've had judges look at this.
They've not looked at the evidence. They've not looked at the evidence.
There's been no evidence. No evidence has been presented in a single court of law in your country that has proved there's election fraud. I mean, if that is true, if it was stolen, as you say, why is there no evidence a year down the track?
All of the past cases that have been heard in court, none of the evidence was presented. We now have the evidence from the forensic audit. The forensic audit is evidence, and it can be presented in a court of law, and I hope it will be. People broke laws. They broke election laws here. They broke state laws here, and laws were broken. And it's really rich to have somebody from Australia coming here trying to tell us how our elections were run.
I'm not trying to tell you how to run your voting system. I'm just trying to get a handle on how you view it. I mean, obviously, it's clear that what you're implying is that if you win, then it'll be fair. But if you lose,
no, that's not what I'm implying. That's not what I'm implying. If you lose, it'll be rigged. No, I just told you, Liam, that we have lawmakers currently at the moment, probably at this very moment, working hard to put forth legislation to try to make our elections more fair. What we're doing is not just about the 2020 election and 2022. We're trying to make our elections fair so that going forward, every voter in Arizona, whether they be Democrat, whether they be independent or Republican, can feel good that the election was honest.
Kari Lake won't budge an inch. The system's broken and must be fixed. And millions of Americans agree with her, including an increasing number of US servicemen and women. It's a frightening scenario for Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, General Colin Powell's former Chief of Staff. How many do you think in the military really believe Trump's stance that the election was stolen?
I think I'm probably safe in saying somewhere from a quarter to a third.
That's a big number. That equates to a lot of people.
It does.
In fact, last year, 120 retired high-ranking military officers, generals and admirals signed an open letter declaring Joe Biden had stolen the election. Colonel Lawrence says this could signal a split in the military at the next election, with those supporting Trump going their own way.
It concerns me, and it concerns the flag officers, admirals, generals that I still know and still communicate with. And I suspect, and I almost can say I know, it concerns General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's made it quite clear that it concerns him. And it should. It should, because we are looking at what one person said to me the other day. The most important instrument in most is the military. Which way does the military go? The people with the guns, which way do they turn? And do they fall apart themselves and add to the melee?
USA! 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 It's a worrying thought in an already violent country, where scenes like the attack on the Capitol building in Washington seem to be applauded by as many people as condemned it. We saw lots and lots of very confronting pictures over many days as they replayed various angles on it. On the January 6th riots, insurrections, call it what you like. I mean, how did you see that? How do you view the events of the 6th of January at the Capitol?
Well, that really doesn't have anything to do with being governor of Arizona. I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with that, sir.
Well, your man Donald.
It's always the conspiracy theorists in the media,
No,
which I'm.
well, that's not true.
I'm counting you as.
Well, that's not true at all. That's not true at all.
You've called our election.
Let's be fair on this. Your man Donald.
You've called our election the big lie.
Your man Donald brought it up. Your man Donald said.
Why would you say that, sir?
What?
Your man Donald?
Well, he is. I mean, he's endorsed you personally. He said a few days ago that those people at the Capitol should be pardoned. They should all be pardoned. Do you think they should be pardoned?
I'm still amazed that you say your man Donald. That's just so disrespectful.
Well, why would it be? He's endorsed you. You have his personal endorsement.
It's just the flippant attitude. It's obvious that you've come into this. It's obvious you've come into this interview and you don't like President Donald Trump.
Kari.
It's obvious.
Well, do you think they should be pardoned? Do you think they should be pardoned?
I have no say in that. I'm running for governor. This isn't something a governor does. You're trying to twist this interview and trying to make me look bad.
You're a Republican. He's the Republican leader.
What I don't like is that people are being held in prison without being charged. That's un-American. Maybe they get away with that stuff in Australia. Perhaps in Australia, because you've given your rights away, you melted down all of your guns, and you guys have no freedom, that you find that okay. But here in America, we do things differently. We have something called the U.S. Constitution, and we have rights.
So we'd be better off having more guns here. I mean, what? You would be better off...
Yeah, you would. You absolutely would, sir. You absolutely would. I feel so sorry for the people in Australia, have no power. The only thing keeping us from being Australia right now is our Second Amendment. And we will never, ever let that go. Mark my words. What we saw happening in Australia, where you have internment camps and people are being forced, if they've encountered anybody with COVID, to be locked into a quarantine camp, is the most horrifying thing I think I've ever seen a government do. It's frightening. And if you can't see that, I feel sorry for you.
Would it have been better?
This is our last question, Liam. We have to run, but thank you for your time.
Just answer me this one question. One more question, Kari.
Well, no, I've already told you we're done. Thank you so much. That guy's a complete nut. Seriously, a complete insane person.
It's here we need to tread carefully. Kari Lake and her many supporters don't tolerate differences of opinion. And the more excitable among them often resort to targeting opponents with vile abuse. Longtime Republican and now Trump enemy, Miles Taylor, lives with the threat of violence on a daily basis. He has personal security and moves homes regularly.
Just 2 days ago, among many other hate messages, and I'll bleep it for you, shut your effing mouth about Trump or pay the price. How did that person get my phone number? Why did that person feel compelled to reach out to me? Why did they feel compelled to threaten me? Because that's the phenomenon. And that's the phenomenon we're witnessing in the United States, is an explosion of political violence.
Worryingly, Miles Taylor may be right. But in the spirit of democracy, I think Kari Lake deserves the last word.
Liam, it was a pleasure meeting you. This has just become comical. I'm leaving. Actually, thank you for giving me a good laugh, because you actually make some of the crazy reporters and people at CNN look almost respectable. So thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kari. It's been a pleasure.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.